Hello and welcome to a Let's Talk Parkinson's event from Parkinson's Community Los Angeles. Tonight, we are focused on women living with Parkinson's, and we are joined by a panel of amazing women who all have PD. My name is Angela Neff, and I serve on PCLA's board. For those of you who don't know us, we are a Los Angeles-based nonprofit that provides support, resources, and community for families living with Parkinson's. I'd like to thank our sponsors for this series, Abbott, AbbVie, Boston Scientific, and Medtronic. Free programs like this are also made possible by donations from the community. If you appreciate free programs like this one, please consider making a donation at our website at PCLA.org. I have a few quick notes for this event. We are recording today's program for our YouTube channel. Please stay muted to keep background noise at a minimum. If you have questions or comments, type them into the chat at any time. We will have time for Q&A at the end. So please join me in welcoming our panelists today. You might know Sharon Krischer as Twitchy Woman. Sharon was diagnosed in 2009 after several years of experiencing odd symptoms. She started her blog, Twitchy Woman's Adventure with Parkinson's, to encourage the exchange of ideas and solutions along living with Parkinson's. Jennifer Parkinson Ilgen was diagnosed at age 32. She is co-founder of Neuroboxing, the founder of the Strong Her Women Fighting Parkinson's, which is a private Facebook group for women living with PD, an RN and Parkinson's ambassador, and more. Sri Shripathy was diagnosed in 2015, but she knew something was not working properly in her body years before that. Sri co-founded the Women's Parkinson's Project, a website that brings awareness and raises the voices of women with PD. My name is Angela Neff, and I was diagnosed with Parkinson's 2 years ago. Tonight, we'd like to just start by having our panelists just tell us a little bit about themselves, and then we'll go dig deep into some good questions. Jennifer, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Jennifer Parkinson, Ilgen now. I got married right before the pandemic. I've had Parkinson's for 17 years, diagnosed. I was diagnosed very early on at age 32. When my son was 6 weeks old and my daughter was 3, I began having symptoms. And because of that early diagnosis, I had a lot of challenges at that time. Where we were back then, 17 years ago, with care is very, very different than what it is today. But we do have a long way to go. Like I said, I co-founded Neuroboxing to help other people with Parkinson's improve their quality of life. And then I founded Stronger Women to help women diagnosed with Parkinson's have better support. So,
thank you. We're very lucky to have you.
Yeah.
Sharon?
Yeah, I was diagnosed 13 years ago, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer in the same month. So my internist sent me to a neurologist who, after hearing that I was having surgery later that week, maybe he was trying to be nice. He said, "You have a Parkinson's-like tremor," and put me on some medication and said, "I'll see you again in however long it was." Gave me no information, no nothing. Did I know anybody who had Parkinson's? No. Certainly no women. Older men, yes. There was nothing on the internet at the time, and breast cancer took precedence. I got through my breast cancer treatment and eventually called my internist and said, "Send me to another doctor." And then he sent me to a movement disorder specialist at UCLA, which made all the difference in the world. And I'm still seeing her, and she's wonderful. And really, she gave me information, what information there was on the internet at the time, and gave me some stuff to read. And she was accessible, and that was that's really the key to all of it, is having a doctor who is accessible. And that made a big difference. And I met Jen actually at a Fox Foundation event years and years ago. She was a speaker. I did nothing for 5 years, nothing. And I went to this Fox Foundation event and I started writing my blog. And then there was a Women in Parkinson's initiative put on by the old Parkinson's Disease Foundation, and Jen and I both went to that. And from that point on, I was feet first into the Parkinson's community, and it's amazing. Still writing my blog, and since the pandemic started, I've been running Sunday morning Zoom meetings for women, and I see a bunch of you are on here. Thank you for joining us today. I saw a number of them yesterday morning.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for being here and sharing all of your knowledge. We're very fortunate. Sri.
So my name is Sri Sripathy. I have Parkinson's disease. I was diagnosed at 40, so I'm 47 now. I knew there was something wrong. I didn't know what it was in my 20s when I noticed that I had a lot of fatigue issues, sleep wasn't working well for me. And then there's all these other little interesting symptoms that came along, like seborrheic dermatitis. I'd have a lot of skin shedding. And then when I went through some hair removal procedure, just to be completely frank, we're all women, I think. But, I was having some hair laser removed, and I noticed that my left arm would start just doing this whenever I got the hair removal. And that was years before my diagnosis. So I took a note of that and I thought, this is so weird. Why is that happening? And then 3 years later or so, I got diagnosed. I'm based in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm a photographer. I write, and I work full-time in tech. I'm the co-founder of the Women's Parkinson's Project. I'm a Davis Phinney ambassador, and I sit on their Young Onset Parkinson's Disease Council.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much. Our first question for you all is, what do you know now about life with PD that you wish you knew when you were first diagnosed? I'm going to start with Jennifer.
Well, I was diagnosed 17 years ago, and it's been quite a long journey with this. The biggest thing that I believe that really has gotten me through these last 17 years is my ability just to be adaptive. The ability to, as things are changing, and they will, it's being able to adapt to those changes and being able to say, okay, well, I can't do this anymore, but there's a different way that I can go about this. There are solutions to the problem, rather than just saying, I'm going to give up and allow this sort of to take over. My ability to just really adapt to those changes has made a huge difference in the way that I've been able to live, better quality life all of these years. So,
can you give us one example, Jennifer?
Well, for me, when about 4 years after I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, I had to go on disability. I was a registered nurse. I had to stop working, and then I went through a divorce. So I became a single mom, and there was never this sort of, I was never able to really say, I can't do this. I can't get out of bed, because I had to be there for my children. I had to get up every day and make sure I could take care of them. And my whole existence centered around my kids. They were really young. They were elementary school and even younger when I was diagnosed. So I had to figure out how I was going to make this work. How was I going to be able to keep living my life? I couldn't just give up. I couldn't just lay in bed and say, I can't move. I can't do this. So for me, that was that sort of turning point where I started exercising. That's when I started boxing. And that's what really turned everything around for me, was when I started to learn how to be a fighter. That is what turned my entire existence around. It's what turned the whole journey with Parkinson's around. And that enabled me to move better. It helped me go from a 45-minute ordeal every morning of trying to get out of bed. It took me 45 minutes to be able to sit up, to be able to get to the point where I was sitting on the side of the bed, eventually stand up, then walk down the hallway holding on to the walls, to eventually being able to walk, get my kids dressed, get them breakfast, and get them ready in the morning. And this was what we did every morning. And when I started boxing and I started to regain my energy and started to regain my mobility, it was a few months later, it was probably a good 8 or 9 months later, but one day I just got up out of bed. It wasn't a gradual thing. It was just all of a sudden I got out of bed. And that really changed everything for me. Now, like I said, I could have just accepted the fact that I had Parkinson's and there wasn't anything I could do about it, because that's what my doctors were telling me. They told me that I had to take medicine and I was going to be in a wheelchair in 10 years.
Wow.
And I could have accepted that. But I am very stubborn. I'm very hard-headed. And I don't like to listen when people tell me I can't do something.
Thank God.
So I started working with a trainer, and I learned to fight back against this. And that helped me to be here for my kids. When I got diagnosed, my fear was that I was not going to be around to see my kids graduate from high school. That was the only goal that I had for myself. I want to see both my kids graduate. And last year I got to see my son, my youngest, graduate from high school. And yeah, so that was a huge milestone for me. And I thought, wow, I got to be here and I got to experience this. I got to see both of my kids graduate from high school. That's what I wanted to do. And when my friends goes, well, you're not done yet. You know, now that you've gone through this, look where you are. You have so much more to do. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I guess I'll jump in. What was the question? We're going back. Oh, what did I?
What do
did I
you know about life now with PD that you wish you knew when you were first diagnosed?
I wish I knew that there was a whole community out there of wonderful people with Parkinson's who are just so supportive of each other. I stayed away from everything for 5 years, literally everything. I had one friend who was diagnosed a few months after I was. We belonged to the same synagogue, and we were a support group of 2. And if we didn't have each other, that was, that was all we had. Both of us had for 5 years. And then I went to a boxing class and dragged him with me. So then we started to meet other people, and it has enriched my life in ways that I never thought could have happened. And it's all because of having Parkinson's. The women in my life who are truly good friends from all around the world have really made my life so much better in so many ways.
And you met them through your blog, how did
Through
you?
my blog, I've been to 2 of the World Parkinson's Congresses. I've met them because I run this Sunday Zoom program. I've just met them in many different areas. It's been organic. I don't know how else to describe it, but when you meet other people with Parkinson's, we have a language that we can talk and we understand each other.
Oh, yeah.
And it really makes a big difference. Then, and look, I've got loving family. My family is wonderful. They care, but they don't always understand what's going on the inside.
Of course.
So it's just a special relationship, and it has really made my life so much better. I never could have imagined that it would be this good 13 years later. And I give credit to many of my Parkinson's friends for being there for me.
Mm.
I guess I'll jump in. So what did I wish I had knew when I was first diagnosed? That's such a hard one for me. I think I wish I had known. Well, actually, I don't really wish I had known anything, in one sense, because if I had known everything that I know now, I'd be a mess. I'd be a complete mess. I had a really easy diagnosis. I didn't have any issues with any of that. I knew how to advocate for myself already, having to deal with some other medical issues like hair loss and like skin conditions and various things. So all of that I think went pretty well for me. What I realized through the years of having Parkinson's, and I've only had it for maybe 7-8 years, is that it really takes over your whole life. And that's something I don't think I realized the first 2 to 3 years. And it takes over your life in ways that I didn't even realize. I mean, there are days where I can't get up, definitely not as bad as some people, but for me, it's subtle. Like my eyes don't move as well. So working in tech full time, having to photograph things as my side business, having to, wanting to write and be an artist, my vision is really affected by Parkinson. So half the time I'm lying on a sofa wearing a heat pack on my eyes. And, now I'm finally getting proper medication to help me with that. But I just didn't realize all these little details, all the ways it affects you. Not shaking, not balance, not gait, not stiffness, all these other things. I didn't realize the fatigue and the depression and the negativity that would enter my body. I didn't understand that, just all of that stuff. And I'm, like Sharon mentioned, having a group of women that I found, and Jennifer and Sharon are now part of that group as well. Sharon I've met in person, Jennifer I met online, and they're both amazing, strong, beautiful women that I look up to in so many ways. And having that community of women that I've built for myself, and that I'm, that we are all building together with all the work that we're doing, has made it bearable, on days where nobody can understand, where my mom might, and I'm single without children. So, I didn't have the impetus to get up for, kids or anything. So I had to find a reason to get up in the morning, and sometimes I'm like, would wish that I had kids, or I'd stay with my sister longer and say, God, this is great, because the kids jump on the bed at 5 a.m. And I'm like, wait, why did I ask for this? Bad idea. But, it helps you get up. So for me, advocacy was a real thing that got me out of the bed, that got me focused, that made me happy again. Doing all this work really changed my life. And I wish I had started earlier.
Thank you. So next question. Diet and nutrition, exercise, quality sleep, and stress management are big things for everybody's quality of life, especially us, right? So what are your favorite tips for these elements? Like for me, an example, for some reason, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I feel like if I take my D3, my vitamin regime, which I really don't like doing, I feel like I really noticeably feel better. I'm shocked at how much it helps. So those kinds of things, would maybe things that you do that maybe surprise you, or just you really rely on.
That's a loaded question. That's there's so many different things all at once. Sharon, did you want to go ahead and?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you can control all of those, then you're a much better person than I am, because I have my sweet tooth. I have not eaten red meat in years. I don't like fish, so that's out. They tell you eat a Mediterranean diet, a lot of fish and vegetables, don't eat chicken and turkey. Well, I eat chicken and turkey because I don't like fish, and I don't eat meat. And you know what? Eat what you want. Life is too short.
Yeah.
It's okay to have that sugary dessert once in a while, not every day, but it's okay to have what you want. And there's just exercise. Find an exercise routine that you like, or you won't do it. That's really the key to them. I think exercise, more than anything else, has been the most important thing to have control over. And if you hate swimming, don't swim, because you will find every excuse in the world not to get in that swimming pool. So
Yeah.
find what you like and do it. Enjoy your life while you can.
It's one of the few research studies that have been sort of proven again and again is that exercise is like the best thing you can do for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, of course, I'm a huge advocate for exercise. That's my whole life. Not only for, just my own Parkinson's symptoms to help manage things all of these years, that has been the absolute key in order for me to be able to move daily, but teaching it as well. And I think that for me has always been that extra step, because when you have to teach someone else, you have to really understand that, you really have to know it, and using your cognitive skills, having to adapt classes on the spot, and planning everything out. I've really noticed a big difference if I don't teach versus when I do. And it really has made a big difference in my own quality of life to be able to teach other people.
I should have included cognitive tips too, because I think I'm so glad you mentioned that. Because
right.
if you think of things like that you want to share too, that's huge.
Yeah, that it really is a huge thing. And I think for me, it's all kind of encompassing, because, I'm focused on exercise, because it helps me manage my symptoms. I'm focused on teaching other people that, again, that's those cognitive abilities. But that's where it's the community that I have. It's the community with my neuroboxing classes. It's community with Stronger Women. It's the passion and advocacy that I have. So it kind of really rolls several things all together. And I have to say, though, when you're taking a look at all of those different things that it really kind of takes in order to have a good quality of life, it is a full-time job to take care of yourself. But it is absolutely, you have to make that a priority. And I think especially as women, we have to make our own self-care number one priority. Our roles in our society are taking care of other people. It's parenting. It's taking care of the household. It's helping your partner, your spouse. It's caregiving for your parents. So there's always this expectation on you that you're supposed to be helping and supposed to be taking care of other people. And it's never thought that you're supposed to take care of yourself, or that you're supposed to put your needs above all the other people in your life. But if you don't, it's going to diminish your quality of life, and you're not going to be able to enjoy those things. And that's very, very important.
Yeah, if you can't be there for yourself, you can't really be there fully for other people either.
Exactly.
So kind of a myth.
Fill your cup first, put the oxygen on yourself first.
Yeah, I think in my case, I'm much worse off in terms of my healthy habits than Jennifer and Sharon. I have not exercised in a year, I will be honest. And I definitely have noticed the downturn in my health. I was really gung-ho and great and felt powerful about it, did everything, hired a personal trainer. And then I guess apathy set in. And that's the tricky thing about apathy and depression. It kind of sneaks in and you're thinking, well, I'm not really depressed. No. And then I look on the floor and I see all the pizza crusts and the wrappers and the orange peels that have collected. And I'm thinking, oh, is this what depression is? I thought it would feel different. So I think understanding what depression looks like, understanding what apathy is, and then having a cohort of people around you to help you get out of that definitely is important, because you may not realize what's happening to you if you're by yourself, or even if friends are telling you, you need a lot of people around you. And if you don't have it, Jennifer's group Stronger is there, Twitchy Women's group is there. We're all doing the work to give people that support. I will say, once I started exercising, I felt much better. It is hard, very hard for me to get out of the bed and exercise. But once I start moving, I feel great. My tremors definitely do increase after that. I can often feel more fatigued. So it's a balance between the type of exercise that I do. I found that I love dancing. So for me, I wanted the doctor to tell me, just tell me what I need to do. Tell me do this exercise. And the response I would always get is, you have to find something you like. I really hate that response. I don't want to have to look for what I like. I want you to tell me, make my life easy. So I had to do a bit of fun, hunting and gathering to figure out what worked for me. And it was dancing and walking. Actually, I really love walking, and I love walking by myself. People will often say, come take a walk with me. Number one, I get dyskinetic when I walk. And that makes me oftentimes uncomfortable to have other people see that. I'm getting more used to it now, but it's just like, I don't want to slow them down. And also I like to dance when I walk. So I'll put on my headphones. I'll be dancing in the middle of the street at 10 p.m. It's my time. It's my space. And I love it. I'm also a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian since birth. So I think, I don't know if that's helped, but I love eating healthy unless there's Frosted Flakes or Twix
Or pizza.
nearby. But honestly, the healthy eating has really helped me. The vitamin D and vitamin B that my doctor recommended, I just kind of kept forgetting to take. When I finally did, I think, as Jennifer mentioned, it was insane. I'm just thinking, oh my God, how do I have so much energy? I was able to move better. I was able to think better. Everything worked better when I was taking my vitamins. I was honestly shocked at how low my levels were and how much I improved when I was doing all of that vitamin intake.
I just take them in the morning with all my other pills. I have my box, and the D3 and B12 go in there automatically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the B12 is a huge thing. Yeah, after I started B12 injections, it made a huge difference. So, yeah.
Okay, and then Sri, you have to give us your skin beauty treatment input at some point. You have the most gorgeous glowing skin.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Well, part of it is I'm on Retin-A because I had acne as a teenager. And, so there's that. I also stay out of the sun, but also staying out of the sun caused me another small little issue, which is a huge vitamin D deficiency. Like, the doctor told me, this is the lowest vitamin D I've seen in a long time. So my other doctor then said, well, don't go out in the sun because you're going to get cancer exposure. So I have one doctor telling me go out in the sun to get vitamin D, another one saying cancer. And I'm like, okay. So I take the pills, I go out in the sun, but honestly, it's sunscreen, Retin-A, and shade.
Thank you for sharing. I'll take it. So the next question, you've all created platforms that connect women living with Parkinson's. And many of you have touched on this question already. At the beginning of your Parkinson's journey, what did your support network look like, and how did you find your Parkinson's community? You have talked about this a lot, but any suggestions you have, you can plug your own communities, feel free.
It was very different back when I was first diagnosed. I mean, there wasn't a community really. It was 17 years ago. And I was looking for anyone else that possibly I could relate to. And I just couldn't find anyone. I'm from Kentucky. I moved to California in 2006. Yeah, 2006. And right after I was diagnosed. And when I was in Kentucky, there was a tri-state young onset group. And I drove like 2 hours to go to this group, and everybody had gotten older. So they were all like 40 years older than me. And, I just couldn't relate to anyone. I had 2 little kids, and I was still trying to work, and I just could not relate at all. And I was sort of terrified to see at that time, like there's that worry of am I going to see what I'm going to look like later, so, and I hear that from people now, they are always concerned that they're going to see somebody in a worse condition. But many times that once they come to see our program, that worries kind of dissipates. But there wasn't a group, there wasn't, any sort of community for me to sort of connect to. When I first moved to the Los Angeles area, actually before PCLA was PCLA many years ago. Like I met Judy Yaris, and I met a lot of people who were part of that group previous, and started getting involved with walks and those kind of things. And that's how I met people. But there wasn't really community like there is now. And so I was lucky enough to get involved with some events back then with APDA. And we had this retreat way up north. And at that retreat, I met this woman who was my age. She had 3 boys. She was married, and she and I just instantly connected.
Nice.
And that was what I needed. Even if I couldn't find a group or community, it was just having that one person that understood what I was going through. And that's what I was trying to create with Stronger Women. When I decided to do Stronger Women, we had just about a year previous, I met Sharon, we did the Women and Parkinson's Initiative. And I came back thinking I was going to start some, a women's group. And I started neuroboxing, and I had all these other commitments. So I was like, okay, I can't really do a major women's project at this point. So about a year later, I was feeling overwhelmed. I was feeling this need to get support, not only giving the support I was giving, but I needed to talk to other women. I needed that support of other inspiring women. And so one night I decided I'm going to make this group on Facebook, this private group of 20 women that I know that inspire me. I had added Sharon as one of them, added like Dr. Maria De Leon, several women that I knew. And I felt that was going to be a small little group that I could just go in and we could have chats and we could talk and support each other. And the next morning I woke up and there were 75 women in the group. And it just kept doubling, and it kept growing, and it kept growing, and it kept growing. And that's sort of how we got to that point. The woman that I met all those years ago was part of that group. We still talk to each other. And when we started this group and we started hearing the texts and the chats and the messages, and she goes, remember when it was just us and we were desperate to find someone else to connect with. And now women who were in these, little rural towns that it takes 3 hours to go to see a doctor, to have no support. They come in and are like, I feel so alone. I'm sitting here in the middle of my living room floor with my 2 kids. I can't do anything except sit there and watch cartoons with them. But the house is a mess. And it's like, you know what? It's okay. It's okay. We know, we understand.
How many women are on site now? How many women do you have now, Jen?
I think we're around 1,800.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah. And I don't let everybody in. So I'm not one of those groups that, if you don't answer my questions, you don't get in. And if you're not a woman with Parkinson's, That's it. There's no men, there's no coaches, there's no doctors, there's no care partner. I don't allow it, period. It changes the dynamics. And that was the biggest thing that I noticed when we started this group. It was completely different than anything I'd ever seen, because now it wasn't a mixed group. It was just women with Parkinson's. And the conversations that I started seeing in there were very different than anything I had ever heard before. And people started talking about real, very sensitive issues. And it's, I mean, there have been times when somebody will come in and say, I feel like giving up totally. I want this over. I want to end this. And we'll see like 500 women in there just surrounding this woman and just giving her the biggest amount of love and virtual hugs you can possibly imagine. And they will stay in there and keep talking, and until she's ready to, like, okay, let's get you some resources where you are and get you some help.
Yeah, I'm on the group. I highly recommend everybody joining it, and just, you don't have to go all the time, but it's
very, very active group.
very active group.
It's a wonderful group, and I give your group credit for a number of the columns. My blog posts have come from ideas that have been posted in that group, because these are things that need to be addressed in some way. And you know, we're always looking for ideas. So when I was diagnosed in 2009, there was nothing. I found one blogger, one. Now the last time I heard, there were at least 200 of us out there, and growing a lot. And some of them are good, some of them are awful. If you come across a blog that tells you that they're going to cure you, please run as fast as you can away from that blog site, because there is no cure, and they just want to sell you something. So, but you know, Jen, you were a pioneer with this. You really were, and it opened the door for a lot of other things for the rest of us to do.
I'm thrilled that this grew to what it did, and it was because of all the women in there. You know, it really took on a life of its own, and then everybody started to expand out from there, and started having more programs. And I think that was the goal. You know, make sure that the women are supported. So
yeah, when we started the Women's Parkinson's Project, you know, we looked at what was already out there, and we saw Twitchy Women, when we saw Stronger, and we didn't want to do anything that replicated what they were doing, because they have such strong communities. So what our vision was is really to publicly raise the voices of women by sharing their stories, having them write blogs for us. And actually, for me, there's a strong photo component to it. I wanted to document women photographically, what their day-to-day lives were with Parkinson's. And in fact, I've just finished documenting 2 women with Parkinson's. One is our co-founder, Kat Hill. Another one is one of our friends, to kind of document what they go through day to day, because oftentimes we don't have those visuals. And part of the reason for the whole raising our voices is to raise public awareness, to have the medical community take a look at us, to have research scientists take a look at us, right? So, you know, I go to Stronger a lot for support. I go to Twitchy Women for inspiration on the blog post, and then I go to Women's Parkinson's Project to see what women are struggling with. So all of us are doing something to complete the circle of encouraging and supporting women.
Very inspiring. I need to get out there more. Our last question of the evening is, a recent paper on the needs of women with Parkinson's disease reinforces what many of us already know, that women may be underserved when it comes to healthcare. What are the best ways we can advocate for ourselves when it comes to Parkinson's care?
Speak up, be loud. All right. Take up space, let them know that, you know, you're here and you need to be listened to. That is the biggest thing. You shouldn't have to justify your symptoms. You should be able to have a doctor that listens to you, that you can communicate with, and will actually listen to you and not dismiss your symptoms. And that to me is the biggest, one of the biggest things. And we talked about this earlier, but both sides of the table, you know, of healthcare professionals need to be better trained on how to actually listen to their patients. And especially, I hate to say this, but male healthcare professionals need to listen to their female patients. I mean, that's it, you know, and it's not okay for a doctor to just say, oh, well, it's just anxiety, depression, and not treat, you know, the actual issue. Yes, you may have anxiety. Yes, you may have depression, but don't side table this and just say, oh, okay, this is not a big deal. And you have to advocate for yourself. You have to speak up. And if you can't, you need someone with you that can help you advocate for yourself. Make sure that your needs are being met. And, you know, we need to train these healthcare professionals, how to address these needs, how to listen, how to communicate, and then we need to be the self-advocates as well. So
Yeah, yeah. So the thing I found is I have a friend of mine who's a doctor, and I would complain to her. And this is before actually I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, way before. But I'd say my doctor is not paying attention to me. They're not giving me any attention. I have all these issues I'm trying to figure out. And she told me, look, they have very little time, right? So go in there, give your doctor a shot, be very clear, be very precise, come up with your list. And that actually really helped me. So, you know, I stayed with one of my doctors that I wasn't thinking I bonded with, gave her time. And now, like after so many years together, we hug each other after we leave. She gives me a Christmas card. She tracks all my symptoms. She's really my own advocate. So that's something I learned. But I think the real thing is we have to have doctors learn how to communicate with us and professionals, but we also need to learn how to communicate with them.
Mhm.
Right. And that is something that nobody's trained to do. When you're sick, when you have a disease, when you're struggling, when you're under brain fog and the words are not coming out of your mouth and you're dyskinetic, and you're expecting me in that state to be cogent and coherent and communicate easily. Yeah, I'd like a little sympathy from the medical professions in that instance. But at the same time, if I come in more prepared, and if I do some deep breathing and I have my list that I've emailed my doctor, that helps them and it helps me. And, you know, I wish sometimes they could read my mind, but they really can't. So
The list is the most important thing you can do, is prepare a list and bring it with you and look at it. Because you can say, oh, well, I can remember all this stuff. You always leave something off.
mhm.
And, you know, just put everything on there, what your concerns. It doesn't matter how sensitive it is. That's what your doctor's there for. And I tell people all the time, if you're not happy with your doctor, find someone else, because this is somebody you're going to have a long-term relationship with. And if you cannot get the care you need, or you're not getting what you think you need from a doctor, find somebody else, because it's probably the most important thing you can do for yourself is get the right doctor for you.
Correct.
Absolutely. I always used to say, tell people that finding a doctor is like a relationship. It's like dating. Okay. You're not going to find the best one the first time out. Okay. You have to date a few. Okay.
Mhm.
And then because you have to realize this is a doctor that you are going to be with for your life. Okay. This is a lifetime commitment. So it's important that you get the right one. So if you're not with a doctor that you feel like is listening to you or communicating with you, or just kind of saying, okay, well, this is what I would do with all my patients. You want to make sure that they're tailoring it and to your specific needs, and they're listening to what you need. So again, if it's not that first or second or third one, keep trying till you find the right doctor that listens to you. Sometimes, I've heard people, really good friends, tell me, this was a great doctor. I love this doctor. I went to the doctor. Absolutely, I could not handle them. They just didn't listen to me, and we just didn't mesh. And so it's really important that you're finding the right doctor for your needs.
The other thing I'd say is communicating with your doctor, and that list is like keeping track of a remodel. If anyone's remodeled their kitchen or their bathroom, it's very detail oriented. We're in the middle of one right now, and I'm looking around and I'm like, there is a little nick there, a little scrape there. So I write down everything. I carry blue tape around with me constantly. And that's what I do with my doctor, right? And I've learned that to note down every symptom that I have, because I ignored one symptom for 2 to 3 years, the symptom of my eyes weren't working. It never occurred to me that that was a Parkinson's related issue. I just thought, wow, I'm in front of the TV too much. Maybe it's just age. Finally, I mentioned it to my doctor. So I had to see a neuro-ophthalmologist, an ophthalmologist who's a cornea specialist, and an optometrist. And I have 3 pairs of glasses, 3 different eye drops, all of this stuff to maintain my eyes. And if I never mentioned it to my doctor, I'd never have known. So any ache or pain, nothing is too small. We have no idea all the ways our bodies are affected by Parkinson's disease. So if you ever feel hesitant, reach out to any one of us, reach out to our communities, talk to your friends, and we are all there to support you in communicating all this, right? Because it's not easy. When I found a new neurologist, because my insurance changed, he was a male doctor. I'd already known him. But talking about female issues with a male neurologist, I found was actually surprisingly uncomfortable. I honestly didn't think that would be the case, but I'm just thinking, oh God, I have to mention my period. I didn't know if I wanted to do that. And then I'm like, I got to get over it, because otherwise he's not going to be able to help me. So even I'm very uncomfortable, even with all my advocacy that I'm doing.
Yeah, and it's important that they know that, because when we first started talking about hormonal issues years ago, when women were saying, and I was noticing, every time it was that time of the month, it seemed like my symptoms were getting worse, and it always seemed to be that way. And I had this small little group, and I mentioned it to my doctor. He'd never heard it ever before. He never heard anybody talk about it. So I asked these women, had they talked to their doctor about it? And they were like, well, no, why would I talk to my neurologist about it? And I was like, well, because they don't know. They don't know. You have to talk to them. They don't understand that these things are happening. And as younger and younger women are being diagnosed, it used to be like we thought that, the average age was someone who was well past menopause. And as we get younger and younger, we are pre-menopausal. And so our bodies are very different in how our hormones are relating to the symptoms. And it's sad, but they really just don't know. And that's what a lot of these women's advocacy groups, like with Sharon, has been involved in, and with Rachel, with the paper that was published on the unmet needs. That's why those things is very, very important.
Thank you.
Being studied.
Thank you so much. We are going to make sure. Oh, do you want to say one more thing?
One other thing.
Questions.
I mentioned one other thing. One of the things that we did in I started a Zoom group 2 years ago because of the pandemic, and we started with 9 women. We've had over 700 women participate in 2 years. And one of the things we started was a mentor program, because to fill in the gap where you go to the doctor, you get the prescription, you diagnose this, and they say come back in 6 months. And you walk out of there in tears, you have nowhere to go. So we are providing mentors for newly diagnosed women, and you can find that on my website. And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to do, because of the pandemic and the inability to get out and see people and meet other people. There was no way of meeting other people. This was one way to do that and to provide support.
Thank you so much. I will be checking that out for sure. And that paper will be sent out along with lots of other resources at the end of this event. We have time for a few questions now. Please submit them through the chat if you have not already.
We have a couple in the chat, Angela. Would you like me to read them
Sure.
for the group? Here's one from Marie. She says, hi from Canada. You ladies look great. Just wondering if you'd each be comfortable sharing which medications you were taking and which ones you feel really help. Thank you.
I mean, I'll start with that. So I'm on oh my God, what am I on? I just typed it. My brain fog. I'm on Cinemet and I'm on 3 pills a day of Cinemet, sometimes 4, 25, 100, extended release. And I'm on Azilect and I take Trazodone to help me sleep. They all help. The Trazodone, when I actually am able to calm my brain down, do like not be on the TV right before I go to sleep, is immense. If I'm not taking that, I do not sleep for 36, 48 hours. I do not sleep at all. So I really rely on that to help me.
Do other people feel comfortable?
Yeah, I take Cinemet. I take it 4 times a day, 1.5 tablets 4 times a day. And then I also use the new Pro Patch, which has been a huge, huge thing. It's really helped a lot. But I honestly, if it weren't for the exercise, these meds would not work this well. They just would not.
Okay.
If I only took the medications and that's all I did, I just would not be doing that well at all.
Plus one, what Jennifer said.
Exercise. I have to exercise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Difference, huge difference. I take an antidepressant. I've been taking it for years because anxiety was a big issue for me. And panic, I would have panic attacks, and without the antidepressant, I have a problem with the panic attacks. So that's huge for me. I take Cinemet and I take Azilect and Requip as well.
I'll just pipe in. I take just one. I'm newly diagnosed, only been diagnosed for 2 years, and I am an avid exerciser. So I'm just taking 1 pill of Cinemet, 125, I guess that is.
Mhm.
I take it in the
25,
morning.
100.
And I was going to take a second one, like every once in a while, I'll just take another one, just, to think like there's something like my brain is going to be challenged. I'll like take one. And I was going to take one for tonight and I didn't. And I'm really proud of myself. I did no, how your tongue twists and all that.
Yeah.
But I do try to take as little as possible and exercise and eat and, use things that are non-medical as much as possible, but that's me.
I'll read the next one, if you like, from Vivian, who says, my biggest issues are anxiety, depression, and worry. It keeps me from going forward and reaching out to others. Any suggestions on how to overcome the depression, anxiety, etc., besides the usual meditate, gardening, etc.?
Yoga. Add yoga to your routine. It makes a huge difference.
I read romance novels. That helps me a lot.
I play the ukulele. Like, find something that gives you pleasure and is also an escape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like meditation and I listen to a lot of podcasts and that kind of stuff. So
And crossword puzzles.
meditation calms me down, definitely calms me down. So
Yeah. I talk to my friends a lot. I will, I have a group of women with Parkinson's that I'm a part of. I have another group of my friends that's been with me. Oh my God, now here comes the tongue twisting. That has been with me for 20, 25 years. And they're great. And we have a video chat group, my Parkinson's group. We use an app called Marco Polo. So we'll often leave messages to each other when we're feeling depressed, when we're feeling down. And sometimes just getting that out there in a video form is really helpful because you're putting it out there and then someone responds. And when you're depressed or anxious or apathetic, it's hard. You know what I mean? It's like you're asking someone with everything going wrong for them to reach out, but somehow you've got to find the ability to at least reach out, because that's the first step. And it's not easy. But without that, there's not going to be a group of people to help you. And also read a romance novel. They're great.
And Strong Her on Facebook is there for you now. And you can get, like Jennifer said, 500 hugs. You can get a lot of virtual, it's funny how it works. You can feel the sincerity. So next question.
We have just a brief testimonial from Lynn, who says the mentor program through Twitchy Women has been a gift to me. I highly recommend it. And just to echo what Angela just said, we will be sending out the resources that have been shared tonight in the chat, and in the conversation, we'll be sending links to all of those things. Catherine Sachs asks for a neuroboxing class in LA. Recommendation on that. So I'll give that to Jennifer.
Well, actually, we will soon have one in actual Los Angeles. I know we've always had a couple in LA County. We have, but there will be one in very soon. It'll be in the Marina Del Rey area. So yeah. So I know people have been asking for something in Los Angeles for a long time. You could have 10 in Los Angeles and you still wouldn't have enough.
The program that I was in has not started up again, and I don't know if they are going to, and there is nothing in West LA. So
yeah, I know. It's asking for that for a long time.
Right.
Yeah. So
We have to wrap it up in a couple of minutes, and we like to let people who are unable to type unmute themselves and share whatever their question is. If you could just unmute yourself, tell us what your first name is, and very clearly ask your question so that we can respond to you as well.
Hello?
Is that Robin?
Yeah, Robin. Yeah, I could type, but I'll ask my question. Has anybody here had DBS surgery?
no.
I have last year. And it gave me life.
It's one of the things that's addressed in this research paper is how women don't get it nearly as much.
Really,
It's very effective, it's
very effective.
yes, it's so
Thanks
thank you
for
for sharing.
It's very effective. If anybody wants to know more about it, I'm here.
You
Got
can, put your
own personal
email, you can put your email in the chat for people to reach out to you if
Okay, I'll
you
do that.
are
I'll do
comfortable with that.
Sure, I am.
Anyone else have a question? Unmute yourself.
I do. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Ginger, can you
Hi,
hear
Ginger.
me? Okay, I'm having trouble getting some therapy. I've been my neurologist prescribed big and loud therapy, but they won't take it they won't accept my insurance, even they won't accept me paying 20% even. The insurance will pay 80%, but they won't accept it. How do I get therapy? I'm from way over in Minnesota. So how am I going to get some help?
You're in Minnesota?
Yes.
Oh, okay. If you were here, I could tell you. I have a great resource for here, but
there's something called the Parkinson's Voice Project, and there's I can
that's
send
what I
a link.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's actually a voice therapist that does a lot of work. Oh my God, I'm forgetting her name, but I am happy to send LA Parkinson's the link to that information, and that does help. Yeah, insurance is fantastic about denying a lot of different things.
I know, and they're sending somebody. I'm having a virtual meeting with them tomorrow night. The insurance company about my needs. Should I just really blast them and tell them that I need stuff and give it to me? Okay, I will.
Well, I mean, blast them, but I'd also say have a list, really itemized list that really lets them know this is what you need. For example, I went to physical therapy today, and my insurance covers 0% until I hit a $12,000 deductible.
Whoa.
So,
well, my insurance will cover it 80%, but the physical therapist, he won't take it. They said, no, we don't deal with them.
Yeah, so a lot of people who do therapy also don't accept insurance, but Parkinson's Voice Project, there's also another voice therapy group that might be able to help, and definitely talk to them and let them know, and maybe some magic can happen. But I'll send that
Oh.
information over.
Thank you.
Okay.
And anybody else who has suggestions for Ginger, please go ahead and type that into the chat. Thank you again to our amazing, amazing panel. This was really special. And thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
But before you go, we want you to know that we have a support group that is just for women with Parkinson's. And this group meets twice a month and it's free. It's over Zoom, so you can come from anywhere. And we chat and share resources and tips, exactly what we did tonight, but a little bit more, maybe a little bit more personal. No, and anyway, yeah. And anyway, I hope you will join us and you will receive information for how to register for this group by email. We will also be sharing in this email the other resources mentioned today. Next month is Parkinson's Awareness Month, and we've got a lot going on. On April 29th, we have Dr. Indus Subramanian will join us to talk about that research paper that we keep mentioning. It's really an amazing paper. So she'll be speaking to us about it. On the unmet needs of women living with PD. We will also have education events on DBS and occupational therapy for Parkinson's, and a really special event, a poetry reading by writers from the Parkinson's community in celebration of Poetry Month and our forthcoming book of poetry from the community. And links to these events will also be emailed to you. So today's event, I just want to thank them again, our wonderful sponsors, Abbott, AbbVie, Boston Scientific, and Medtronic. And by donating to PCLA, you can join us in our mission to improve the lives of families in our community who are living with Parkinson's. PCLA is a nonprofit and all donations are tax deductible. And if you enjoyed today's program, please consider donating at PCLA.org and help us continue this amazing work and continue to provide programs like this for free. As always, reach out to us with questions at info@pcla.org or by phone at 310-880-3143. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe and stay well.
Thank you.